Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we are going to talk about my favorite plants to attract your pollinators to your garden. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on annuals today because it may be the brisky days of December, but it is never too early to start planning and dreaming about next year's gardens. That is one of my absolute favorite things to do in the wintertime, is to dream and plan of next year's garden. So if you are looking to attract pollinators to your garden, I am sharing with you my favorite annuals to bring in those sweet friends to your space. Now, first of all, what is a pollinator? We need to start with the basics. A pollinator is going to be a living creature that brings the male parts of a plant to a female part of a plant. Your most common pollinators, of course, are going to be your honeybees, your bumblebees, your butterflies, your hummingbirds, but they can include wasps and beetles and flies and bats and all sorts of things. We're really focusing on the maybe the sweeter ones with the honeybees, bumblebees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. These are in no particular order, but grab a pen, grab your gardening journal, and let's get started. So really, I have to say, probably my number one plant for bringing in the pollinators of a various, sizes and species and the numbers would have to be Rockin Playing the Blues Salvia. This salvia is an absolute magnet for your pollinators, specifically the bees. They love this plant. The Rockin series of salvias, they're all great pollinator attractors. They do a great job of supporting our pollinators. The reason I chose Playing the Blues is because it does the best job really with those bees, our honeybees and bumblebees. Of course, Rockin Playing the Blues is a lovely shade of blue, has a nice long stalks of flowers that are a continuous bloomer. Once you get them planted, they are very drought tolerant, very hardy. Even depending on your growing zone, for me in a zone 8A here in North Carolina, this particular salvia will be a perennial for me. Not only does it have those beautiful flowers with all the nectar that your pollinators love, but the foliage on the plant is highly attractive for us, the humans who are seeing it. It is a kind of a more of a silvery blue-green shade, instead of the dark deep green that your other salvias have. But Rockin Playing the Blues absolutely always, without a doubt, is completely covered in pollinators. Simple maintenance is very, very easy. As those stalks get really long, your flower stalks, you can come in and just selectively prune them throughout the season. Not a high maintenance plant whatsoever, not necessarily a really heavy feeder. Just amend your soil with some good compost when you plant, and of course use that time release fertilizer from proven winners. It is going to be a full sun plant. And in fact, all of the annuals that we're talking about today are going to be considered doing best in the full sun. There's a simple reason for that. Pollinators need the sun to warm up their bodies. They're cold-blooded creatures, right? So they need the heat of the sun to give them that energy. So more often than not, this is always exceptions, you're going to find your large number of pollinators are going to be in your sun gardens. Next, now this was a really big surprise for us when we grew this, when it was a new introduction, is the Mojave yellow portulaca. Now the Mojave yellow, what is the big difference in this portulaca versus other portulacas is the size of the blooms. They are large, and of course, being yellow, bright yellow, your honeybees can see color and they are actually attracted to the color yellow, the yellows, the purples, the blues, and the whites. We had the Mojave yellow growing in the water trough at the barn when it was coming a new introduction, and the honeybees constantly were covering this plant. I love portulaca, of course, for those gorgeous blooms, but also because it loves the heat and the humidity. You can put it in a container, you can put it in a hanging basket, but it does really well in the ground as well. In the ground, it acts more like a ground cover. It's nice and low and wide. in containers or a hanging basket, it will spill over. This is really fun because your blooms will open and close with the sun. But my gosh, y'all, if you are looking for a drought tolerant, heat loving, will go all the way through the season until you have a hard freeze, Mojave yellow portulaca is going to be a great addition to your garden, and your honeybees are going to thank you. They love this plant. Another plant that both the pollinators and we love, still in that yellow family, is the Suncredible yellow sunflower. This is a reblooming sunflower. Obviously, it does love the sun, as its name suggests. This gets to be a nice big shrub size, even if you are in maybe a cooler zone. Even if we have a shorter growing period, it's going to be in that 2 to 3 foot range. For us, with a long growing period, we can get to 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. It is that reblooming sunflower that has that classic sunflower look to it, but they're just a little bit smaller, right? And the plant will be completely covered in these gorgeous sunflowers because of the high nectar that these sunflowers produce. The bees go nuts. Both your honeybees, your bumblebees, they love this plant. They make great cut flowers, and the more you cut on this plant, the thicker and the stockier it gets, and the more blooms it produces. So this is one where we want to encourage you to cut those flowers, bring them in, make a beautiful vase. And then of course your pollinators, just kind of give them a little wiggle and they'll just fly right off and go to another plant. But the Suncredible yellow sunflower is going to be a great addition that gives you some height and structure in your garden. Pollinators go nuts over it. If you are looking to attract your hummingbirds to your garden, without a doubt, the number one plant that we always suggest is Vermillionaire. Vermillionaire is a cuphea. Some people call it like a large firecracker plant. This plant may be kind of unassuming, right? Because it has those dark green leaves, a very arching habit to it. And the flowers on it are very small. They are bright orange, and it's hard to think about hummingbirds right now in the colds of December, but they'll be here, they'll be back before you know it. But the Vermillionaire does have very small tubular flowers on it. And when people who are not familiar with Vermillionaire, when we tell them this is going to be your number one plant for your hummingbirds, they kind of look at you like you're kind of crazy. But because they had those really tubular flowers on them, the hummingbirds can get in there with their beak and really get a hold of all of that sweet nectar. Time and time again, I have had my hummingbirds go to Vermillionaire first, and then they will come to my hummingbird feeder. They prefer the plant over our feeders, right? And I tell people when my kids were little and we had an in-ground pool, I had Vermillionaire in pots on the deck around the pool. Those hummingbirds did not care that there was 3 screaming banshee kids jumping in and out of the pool. They would go to those Vermillionaire and just feed and feast until they could hold no more. Vermillionaire, number one plant for your hummingbirds. Great in containers and the landscape. Your bumblebees also love Vermillionaire. That was a surprise to me. So your bumblebees and your hummingbirds, Vermillionaire cuphea, you need to have that in your life. And then the petunias. This may be a surprise to some people, and I've gotten some pushback before on saying that your Supertunias and your Superbells are great attractors for your pollinators. They are. We have hummingbirds that come into the greenhouse, feed on the Supertunia, Superbell hanging baskets, and then off they go. Probably what I'm going to choose is going to be my Supertunia Mini Vista Indigo because of that nice, deep, dark purple, blue kind of hue to it. This is going to attract both your hummingbirds and your bees, right? So these plants are just an absolute gorgeous, tight, compact, covered in these it really does come on, take an ombre effect to it. So it'll have deep purple. Then as they age, they kind of lighten up to a little bit of a blue, but that indigo color, gorgeous. Of course, your Supertunia Mini Vistas are perfect for containers, hanging baskets. We use them in the landscape a ton. And because Supertunias are more cool tolerant, you can plant them early on in the season. So get those plants out in the garden. And for us in North Carolina, we plant ours in late March, early April. They still have the flowers on them, and then your honeybees are going to thank you because they have a new food source in your garden. Senorita Blanca cleome. Cleome is a great pollinator supporter for your garden. Your bees love it, your butterflies love it, just highly attracted to it. If you've been following us, you know we are huge fans of cleome. Senorita Blanca is going to be a beautiful white, of course, and it will get some nice height and structure for your garden. For us, at the end of the season, our Senorita Blanca was, I would say, every bit of like 4 feet tall. Nice, big plants, continuous bloomers. So when they are small plants that you put them in the ground as a grande size container, and as they grow up to be that 3 feet, 4 feet, they are going to be continuously putting on new flowers. Very, have that height for your garden, some movement in your garden, but your pollinators love that cleome, especially, like I said, that Senorita Blanca, because it is white. And remember, the honeybees do enjoy a white flower. The difference with this cleome versus maybe your grandmama's cleome, the Senoritas are both sterile, so they do not throw down thousands of baby seeds in your garden. They are thornless, so yay for that. And then they do not have the strong odor that some of the other older varieties of cleomes have. So Senorita Blanca is a great heat-loving, drought-tolerant, low-maintenance, easy-peasy plant that the pollinators are going to adore. A brand new one on the market this year is the Aromagica purple heliotrope. Now, this was a great surprise for me on how well it performed in our test gardens this year. This is going to be a nice, low-growing, mounded habit plant that just it kept on going, y'all. It was the absolute lowest maintenance, easiest plant to take care of. Really rich, dark green leaves with these massive heads of deep purple flowers. Especially, I noticed at the end of the season when the rest of the flowers in the garden were gone, the honeybees and the bumblebees were all over the Aromagica purple. They loved this plant. Some of the pictures that I have had taken at the end of the season, this was in like mid to late November. So maybe those other plants in the garden have kind of already petered out. Maybe, you know, things have just happened, right? This Aromagica purple was still going strong. Really strong performer, mounded habit. And like I said, you cannot go wrong with how easy it is. Gorgeous color. Love this plant. We will be using this plant a lot in our garden this coming year in 2025. Being a North Carolina girl, I do love my lantana because lantana can handle the heat and humidity of the South, and it absolutely thrives in the heat and the humidity of the South. One of my favorite ones is, and I would say is the most versatile one, is the Luscious Basket Tangeglow. This lantana is going to be a more petite lantana. It's not going to be as large and maybe obnoxious as some of the other lantanas that you're used to, but given its name, basket, it does really well in containers. So you can make a hanging basket out of this lantana. You can put it in a container. Obviously, you can put it in the ground as well. But of course, your lantanas are famous for attracting your butterflies, your hummingbirds, the bees. They love this plant. Again, no fuss. Deer resistant, rabbit resistant, has that kind of that tough texture to it. Just absolutely thrives in the heat and the humidity. Where other plants are struggling, your Luscious Basket Tangeglow is going to absolutely just take off. Now, I will tell you, keep in mind when you either visit the local garden center or maybe you order your lantana from Creekside this spring. If you get it early or you go into the garden center early, it's going to be a small plant. Why? Because of what I just told you. They love the heat and the humidity. And no matter how much heat you crank into a greenhouse, sometimes you just need the warmth of the sun and the heat and the humidity of nature to really make them take off. So in the spring, they're going to be a little bit slower. They're going to be a little bit smaller. Honey, it is going to pay off later on in the season when everything else is withering away, maybe even including you. Those luscious basket tangelos are going to be taken off and your pollinators are going to adore them. Bright yellows and oranges and reds, all sorts of different colors on this lantana. It is a great one for sure. This one we sell as an annual, but depending on your growing zone, it probably could be a perennial for you. What am I talking about? The Karalee petite pink guara. Now, guara is a really fun, very light, very airy plant. In the past, historically, guara can be quite large. Given that this is the Karalee petite pink, it is going to be a smaller plant. It is not going to have the massive height that some of the traditional guaras have, but it has that really light, airy habit to it. Those beautiful pink flowers on it. Pollinators just majorly attracted to this. It is so fun to watch the bees go into the flowers, and as the stems are blowing in the breeze, you'll just see those little bees. They're just going for a ride and they're hanging on because they don't care, because they're getting all of that sweet nectar out of the guara. If you want to, with your guara, if you'll notice that maybe it has a really strong bloom performance early on, and then maybe it kind of starts to slow down a little bit, I just give mine a little trim. I just take up those spent stalks and I will just trim them back. And before you know it, man, it has flushed out again. So don't be afraid to kind of cut back your guara. If you notice that it has started to slow down a little bit in the summertime, it comes right back. And for me in the South, which is, this is what I love, is when those annuals that act as perennials, even in the wintertime, you'll still have a little mound. So you can see where that plant is. So the Karalee petite pink, great for your landscapes. It is great for containers, mixed containers, because it brings that thriller habit to the container with those light, airy stalks. So be on the lookout for that guara. And then last but certainly not least is the Truffula pink. Right. So the Truffula pink gomphrena is going to be one of those that it was really popular a couple of years ago, and it's kind of like lost its popularity, and I'm not sure why, but this plant is the coolest plant that your pollinators, your butterflies love the Truffula pink gomphrena. This is going to be really fun because it has these like pink ball that the pink is not actually the flowers. If you look really close, they have these little bit like orange little flowers inside. But what you see are the pink globes. It is the coolest plant. It is very tough. It is drought tolerant. They will send out the roots and seek out that water. So if you have an area that's not on irrigation, maybe it's a trouble spot for you, but you want to have a beautiful display of pink and a little bit of that orange in there, then you need to get that Truffula pink because it is a great one. They also make great cut flowers, and you can dry them. So you can wait till the end of the season if you want to and cut some, put them in a vase, and they dry and they are gorgeous in your home. But your pollinators, your butterflies love this plant. Like I said, very easy, very low maintenance. Loves the heat, loves the humidity, and drought tolerant once you get established. It is a great time to go ahead and start dreaming and planning of next year's garden. Of course, we are taking pre-orders here at the Creekside Nursery. So if you're interested in any of these or any other annuals that might be on your wish list, you can visit www.gardeningwithcreekside.com, and we are taking pre-orders for those annuals. We're not going to ship them anytime soon. Trust me, we will ship them when it is appropriate for your growing zone. We're going to continue to do series like this and kind of topics on your annuals. If you are interested in doing another topic, please let me know. And if you have something that maybe I didn't discuss, put it in the comments. Let's share as a community, one with another. What have you found great success that attracts the pollinators to your garden? Heck, if you want to go ahead and put in some perennials and shrubs in there, go for it. Today we're just focusing on annuals, but we want to support that pollinator population because we would not have our food without our sweet little pollinators. So as always, we hope you have found this fun, informative, and inspirational. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.